Sveiki, aš Goda Raibytė ir čia Radikalus smalsumas. Marsas nuo seno masino žmonijos vaizduotę. XIX amžiuje pirmą kartą pro teleskopus pamatėme intriguojantį planetos paviršių, o dabar jau žinome, kad Marsas milijonus metų buvo panašus į Žemę. Todėl mokslininkai bando išsiaiškinti, ar ten spėjo užsimegzti gyvybę, o jei ne, kodėl. Be to kelionė į Marsą jau ruošiasi ir astronautai. Liepos pabaigoje NASA į Marsą išsiuntė naują misiją Perseverance, kuri ieškos senovinės gyvybės liekanų ir kartu išbandys pirmąjį žmonijos istorijoje kosminį sraigtasparnį Ingenuity. Daugiau sužinoti apie misijos ypatumus ir Marsą paskambinome į NASA ir pasikalbėjome su viena pagrindinių NASA's inžinierių, Ingenuity vadove Mimi Aung.
Ingenuity is the very first Mars helicopter. So it's a technology demonstration to demonstrate the very, very first rotorcraft flight at Mars. In fact, we as human beings have never flown a rotorcraft outside of our own Earth's atmosphere. So this will be the very first rotorcraft flight attempt at Mars and in fact on any other planet.
What are you hoping to find there?
Right. So this is a technology demonstration. So we are proving that it is possible to fly a helicopter, a rotorcraft, on Mars, and that we know how to operate. And in fact, our ultimate goal is to add the aerial dimension to space exploration. Mm-hmm. So today we explore, for example, Mars, right, from spacecraft in orbit and rovers on the surface. But we don't fly, in the atmosphere, and so we have the potential to add the aerial dimension. So that's the ultimate motivation. So, and because it's being done for the first time and all the way at Mars, right, operated from Earth, we're going to be very conservative. Okay, so I am prefacing my answer because we have to prove
Not too high up, you mean?
So yes, so we'll be going up. The first flight will be going up to about 3 meters from above the ground, hovering, and then flying laterally a few meters, very conservatively, come back and land. That itself would be really meet the maximum part of our goal, right? Which is we have algorithms and we have shown how it works in simulated Mars environment here on Earth. Right? And so our first flight there will be to repeat this flight that we've done multiple times on Earth, and matching our algorithm. So yes, the first flight will be getting up to about 3 meters, do a lateral flight, come back and land. Mm-hmm. Once we have that, then we have up to 4 more flights planned with bolder and bolder, challenges. So we'll go up to 5 meters and we'll go out tens of meters, come back and land. And ultimately we'll go up to as far as possibly 150 meters and coming back like round trip of 300 meters.
Mm-hmm. We will be going back to the helicopter, but you mentioned Mars simulation. Where do you do that on Earth?
Yeah, so this goes back from the fact that maybe if I can talk just a little bit about why it is so difficult to fly a rotorcraft, a helicopter at Mars, right? The atmosphere there is very thin. It's 1% compared to that on Earth, okay? So when you're building a helicopter where you're spinning the blades, right, to push air and to generate the lift, it's very difficult to do that, okay? So first of all, we really had to start with the physics, the fundamentals of how do you lift in such thin atmosphere of Mars? And so this is where about, starting from over 7 years ago, and in fact, back in the 90s, analysis showed that you can generate lift. There is enough atmosphere there, okay? In the 90s, it was shown. And then in the 2012 era, it was picked back up and saying, all right, if you can lift, how fast do you have to spin and how light does the vehicle have to be? It was all determined that, we needed to have a mass of about 1.8 to 2 kilograms. The entire vehicle, right, had to weigh less than 1.8 to 2 kilograms. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was very light. And so we started from the algorithms, even in determining what the size of the blades have to be and what the lift have to be and how the vehicle has to be. And then once we determined that, we really had to determine with then how is the lift? How will the vehicle react when you spin the blade? Even that had to be modeled from the basics mathematical equations. And then built upon those equations, we built the prototype vehicle. And then based upon that, we built an engineering model. And ultimately, we built the flight vehicle. So the way we've always done is starting from the equations and then building these vehicles, performing test flights on Earth, and making sure that they match our algorithms and tuning our algorithms along the way. And then ultimately, really seeing that we have algorithms that match our test on Earth in simulated, Earth, Mars environment on Earth in test chambers. And then with those two matching models, now we're going to Mars and performing our first experiment in situ.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take to develop? I'm talking starting from the idea that you mentioned it was possible in the 90s until, liftoff a couple of weeks back.
Right. So in the 90s, it was proven in research that it was possible. This version of the helicopter, we started back up around 2013, about 2000 to 2013. And so it took about 7 years.
So what are the challenges the helicopter will have to overcome on its way to Mars and then when it's already there?
Right. So we're on our way now, and we've met our first milestone. I would say there are a series of milestones that we have to meet, before Ingenuity takes its first flight. Okay. So we've met our first milestone, which is we launched and we've turned it on for the first time in space. The helicopter is attached to Perseverance rover, right, on the belly pan, and there's a base station also on the rover. So we've turned on the base station, and we have, communicated and checked out the health of the base station and the helicopter, and we're maintaining its battery all the way through cruise. So that's the first milestone checked. Now we go to cruise, and the next major milestone is when we get to the surface. After Perseverance lands on the rover, Perseverance rover is going to deploy the helicopter Ingenuity to the surface. Okay, that's a major milestone to be deployed safely. And then, because after deployment, that also marks the moment that the Ingenuity starts operating on its own, in its own standalone form. It will never go back to the rover at that point. The rover will deploy and drive away. So that's going to be a very big milestone. And then after that deployment, surviving the first very cold night is a huge milestone, right? It's very cold on Mars. It's about minus 90 degrees Celsius. And we have designed the helicopter to keep itself warm. And we have algorithms, we have tests on Earth that shows we can do it. But doing it for the first time in situ is extremely important milestone. Mm-hmm. So after that, then we have incremental checkout of the helicopter, and then we'll perform the very first rotorcraft attempt. And so we have 30 Martian days set aside for our experiment. So in those 30 Martian days, we will be performing, we have planned up to 5 flights of incremental difficulty, as we discussed earlier. So that's our whole series of milestones that we are working with.
So the touchdown to Mars is planned for February, right? How long after the landing are you planning to start the helicopter?
It's planned in about 2 months after. So somewhere in April, May timeframe of 2021 will be when we're deployed, followed by our 30 Martian days of experiments.
The helicopter is a part of Mars 2020 mission. What is your favorite thing about the mission in general?
I think it's been a phenomenal opportunity to be a part of such a classic mission, right? As Perseverance, and to be also one of the technology demonstration payloads that is carrying, to prove technology for future generations. So it's an extraordinary opportunity to be in that intersection. As a reminder, the Ingenuity Mars helicopter is a technology demonstration, is a pathfinder, paving the way for future, much larger helicopters to do significant exploration, at Mars, right? So it really getting this opportunity on a traditional, very classic mission, right? It's so historical, such a historical mission, but to be there as a tech demo, proving technology demonstration for the next generation, introducing aerial dimension, rotorcraft exploration in the future, that's been the extraordinary opportunity and just an amazing opportunity.
That sounds really exciting. Why do we need to explore Mars? Why is it still interesting to scientists, to you, for example?
Well, for me, the ultimate question of, is there life elsewhere? Are we alone on Earth? Is there life elsewhere? I mean, personally, for me, that is what has drawn me to NASA, right? And so Mars is a very, example. For example, is there proof of, ancient life there? Searching and determining that is extremely important.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? I wouldn't ask you if you believe in life on Mars, but what do you think? Is there a possibility that, a long time ago, there was some life forms on the red planet?
Oh, these are all very subjective. I guess everybody has their opinion. So I believe, my answer would be, out there, there must be life, elsewhere. Universe the size is incredible, and there must be life elsewhere. But we have to keep looking in all possible targets. It's just very large, search space, and there must be life out there elsewhere, or have been in the past. But that's personal, it's a very personal belief. I think everybody has their own view.
Of course, but fingers crossed for the best result. You are one of the lead engineers at NASA at the moment. How did you become interested in space?
Oh, space. Yes. I guess since young, and I am sure I'm not unique on this, just the sky, right? You can always see the sky regardless of where you are, and you see the stars. And all of us at one time or another have wondered, right? What's out there, right? Is there life elsewhere? Are we alone? It's a very human nature question. I'm sure everybody or most people have at one point or another have wondered. But I think for me personally, that question has always stuck. I feel, life is short, right? We live, life is short. And you wonder, right? Are we alone? I think that question drives very strongly inside me. And so for me, that's what has fascinated me with what are the answers that space holds. We live on Earth, but it's so vast out there. What's out there? So that's always driven me.
Mm-hmm. So from looking up at the sky and wondering about the cosmos, about the space exploration, to becoming one of the lead engineers at NASA, what is your story like? How did you become a scientist, yourself, an engineer?
Sure. I went into engineering because I love math. I just love math. So,
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, I love math. And I guess... in fact, my mother, was a math PhD. She got her PhD in math, and my father is in PhD in food science, chemistry. So, I've been in the technical, I grew up in the technical world. I love math. So when I grew up, I actually wanted to pursue math. And my parents actually said, it's good you love math, but you should also go into application of math. We want you to apply math, don't just do pure math and do application of math. So I had to really think about it. I think I just love equations. I would love the world of, mathematical world. So application of math, really, engineering is the perfect field for it. So that's how I started in engineering. And within engineering, there are many different fields. And I picked electrical engineering. And within electrical engineering, it took a while, because, again, electrical engineering itself is really broad. And the field I fell in love with is signal processing and communications. It really was a beautiful intersection of mathematical equations and communication systems. And, how do you process signals so that you can get the information, that was transmitted in spite of all the corruption that happens, through the medium that you're transmitting, like atmosphere or distance or, just equipment, noise from the equipment. And, how do you get the signal you transmitted and how do you receive it accurately on the other side? So anyway, as I was studying in undergraduate and then my master's degree, I did my thesis in signal processing and communications. And then time came to, apply for jobs after my master's degree. And I applied here at the NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And it was an amazing day, just really understanding that everything that I've been learning pretty much theoretically at school, there were so many different applications that I could do from the different interviews and the different organizations that I was talking to on my interview day. And I still remember that day really clearly. It was just a really exciting day. And there were different ways I could participate here. And the job I actually took on was in the deep space exploration, a deep space network, which takes care of the ground systems that are tracking signals, from spacecraft in deep space, right? Very tiny signals, and processing and getting the ones and the zeros that are coming back from the spacecraft, right? And really getting accurate signals back out of them, and of course also transmitting signals to the spacecraft. So you can imagine that was the signal processor's dream come true, right? Everything you've learned, here you're applying it to communicating with the spacecraft in deep space. So that was a phenomenal start at JPL. I loved it. And then over time, I really started evolving onto the spacecraft side. And, so first I started in the ground system, the signal processing, but I moved on to the spacecraft side, looking on how the spacecraft are built, how they are controlled. And then from there on, I really fell in love with autonomous space systems. We are getting very advanced in space exploration, but there really is a lot more space, for spacecraft to be a lot more autonomous, a lot of onboard decision, onboard actions, onboard, activities. There is a lot room for increasingly autonomous systems. And that's where I really, really fell in love with, the idea of increasingly autonomous systems to really advance how our systems work. So that's how my career progressed. And then about 2014 era, I was the deputy manager of the Autonomous Systems Division here at JPL. So that's, autonomous systems, right, which has the, guidance and control of spacecraft and spacecraft computers and spacecraft software, spacecraft power, spacecraft and robotics, right? In that division, the idea of the Mars helicopter got matured in conjunction with our director's office. Our previous director, Dr. Alachi, asked about, hey, why aren't we flying helicopters at Mars, right? He reopened the question of why don't we fly at Mars? And at that point, one of the sections in our division, the robotics section, Dr. Bob Balaram, who had done research in the 90s that it was possible, he was connected back up with the division office, and the idea of the Mars helicopter was picked up again. So I was in the, division position looking at autonomous systems, right? And when the Mars helicopter idea was again picked up, and as the Mars helicopter effort grew, then I moved from that the deputy division manager position to leading the Mars helicopter, and really started taking on since then, and I've been there ever since. You should have an interview with him, because Dr. Alachi was fundamental to starting Mars helicopter ingenuity, right? He not only posed the initial question, he supported it, he believed in this project.
Amazing.
In the beginning, it was, really it was a really kind of question, right? Is it really possible, right? That's where we started, right? And then we proved each milestone, and, and then ultimately we became and ended up with the Mars helicopter ingenuity. But he never wavered in his support, endorsement, and encouragement. So you should interview with him, because he is a fundamental part of this story.
What is it like to work there and to be one of the lead scientists, engineers, heading one of the most important mission to Mars?
Oh, yeah. Coming to NASA, JPL has been a dream come true from day one. And, it's coming on 30 years now, and it really feels like I just got here yesterday. It's an incredible opportunity to work here because, as we've been talking, what we do here is, first of a kind, and it's looking for answers of very deep questions, right? And again, for me personally, I'm driven by the question of, is there life as well? Like, are we alone on this earth? And we are looking for answers, right, that are beyond the earth. So first of all, just the cause, of the reason we work for it is extraordinary. And then secondly, personally, as I mentioned, I love math. That's why I went to engineering. In the engineering, I found the intersection of starting with equations and how, you apply equations and get them built into. It takes everybody to build these complex systems to follow these original equations and making them work. And because they're making them work for this cause that, I really believe in, to get these answers, it's been really fun, to do that. And then in terms of just the opportunity, because everything we do is so challenging, I felt welcome and I felt like a productive member of the community from day one, being able to, have room to give my very best and just sky's the limit, right? Literally, even sky is in fact not the limit. Space is the limit. And you just the opportunity to give it everything you can and to make the best, product that we can of something that's never been done before. That's been an extraordinary, dream come true, and just an incredible opportunity. So
you seem very passionate about your job, and it is really inspiring to listen to you. I often, when I talk to women scientists, they all have, different stories, how they became a scientist or a technologist, an engineer, or similar like that. And what is it like to be a woman in space exploration? What was it like? What is it like for you?
For me, I guess engineering, especially in space exploration, is challenging, right? Every system we're building, we have never done before. It's first of a kind, it's difficult, right? And we're modeling the environment and we're building something to match, and we are trying to figure out how to test it, and it's a very complex challenge. So because of that, I guess from day one, I've really concentrated on what we are building and what are the challenges we are overcoming to build, whatever project I've been on. It's always been the first time something like this has been done. So I guess personally, I have always been, I've come from my, electrical engineering background. I tend to look at every project I've been on, or every group, I've worked with, or every team I've worked within, or I've led, any role, I really tend to look at any project from very engineering perspective. So in that sense, it's a very diverse, every effort has been very diverse. And I wouldn't, it's not just in gender, I think it's men, women, but it's also been very diverse in terms of disciplines, right? There is electrical, there is mechanical, there is structural, there is materials, there is software, power, materials and processes, assurance of the quality. Every discipline comes across together. So I would say from day one, I haven't felt different because I'm a woman, or because I'm an electrical engineer, or because a part of electrical engineer, I'm trained in signal processing. I think from day one, I've just felt very welcome, and also felt very excited, and I've just jumped in to join and say, hey, what are we trying to do here? What is it that we're trying to build together? Okay, what can I do? What are you doing? How do we all tie together? And so I've always looked at it that way. I haven't seen myself as different, but as one of the people who are needed, to make things happen, because everybody really have to do their really best, in fact, more than their best, to make something like this work. So I've always focused on that. Everything we've done has been very challenging. So it's...
What advice would you give to young girls who are now considering to be a space scientist, an engineer, after they grow up?
My advice, just find what you really want to do, and find the intersection of that and what you're really good at, and where you see the impact of what you're doing, matches with how you want to impact the world or the company that you're joining or the organization that you're joining. Find that intersection of what you're good at, what you really like to do, and what you really want is a good impact, a good result out of what you're going to work so hard on. You believe in that cause. Okay. Once you find that, I really believe you should go for it with abandon. Just do it. Just if you really believe in it, I really truly believe that you will find your way forward. You're going to find your way, even if there are roadblocks, because you believe in it so much, you'll find a way to do it. So go for it. When you believe in what you're doing. But I also have to caution, you go for what you're believing, but it takes a ton of work. I cannot overemphasize how much work it takes. But because you picked a field that you really love and you really believe in and that you're good at, that ton of work, you're really going to enjoy doing that ton of work. And so I think it's really important to find that intersection. And then after that, go for it. Don't doubt yourself. Go for it.
That is really beautiful. Thank you for this really inspiring conversation, and thank you for your time.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for calling me, and it's been fun chatting.
Tai tiek, ačiū, kad žiūrėjote ir likite su Delfi televizija.